Hello my friends, welcome to the new Magister Clavis video. Today I would like to speak with you about not just one grimoire but series of grimoires, because you have recently voted for a new book. There were like 3 options, and again only one option always wins, and it was the Grimoire of St Cyprian. And it took me a little bit to prepare this video because actually this is not only one book, but Grimoire of St Cyprian is actually a series of books that appeared in Europe practically within 17th, 18th century, even 19th century, and they were very popular in several parts, mostly in the western and northern parts of Europe. And later on even this book traveled and migrated to South America and become very popular in Brazil and Southern American states. Those of you that work with magic and work with magical grimoires, mostly from the Goetia tradition, probably you might have heard about Book of St Cyprian. We know that mostly in the 17th, 18th century, many medieval grimoires starts to appear. There are few very famous ones, Lesser Key of Solomon, Greater Key of Solomon, these Lemegeton books, Grimoirum Verum. But we know that in the 17th century practically there appears a new book that is related to this series of Western magic tradition. It's called Book of St Cyprian, and it appears in the first editions appear in Portugal. It's called, and sorry for my Portuguese, it's like Libro de São Cipriano. And also it appears in this in Iberian Peninsula, also in Spanish we have like Libro de San Cipriano. These books, although they are known by the name of Saint Cyprian, they were not written by Saint Cyprian, and it's just attributed to Saint Cyprian as such. So who was this mystical Saint Cyprian? Roman Church or Roman theology practically, and also Eastern Orthodox Church recognize 2 saints. One is the maybe a little bit more famous, the Church Father Cyprian. But then there is also another one, Saint Cyprian from famous city of Carthage. But the book of St. Cyprian are more attributed to this pseudo-author because he lived in the 3rd century of current era, St. Cyprian of Antioch. He was a martyr. It is believed that Cyprian was a magician before. He was very probably deeply affected by Gnosticism, by the Zoroastric teachings, but later on he turns into Christianity because as in many things also there was a woman behind his transformation. He falls in love into Justina. She was like a very strong Catholic believer, and she practically he renounces his magic ways into Christianity, and the love is purely platonic. He even vows the vow of because Justina was practically she had a vow of chastity, and it is believed that Cyprian practically also followed her, so their love was maybe platonic. But they both become later on targets of Roman Emperor Diocletian. Diocletian or Diocletianus was a Roman emperor that wanted to already in that time Christianity was quite strong. It was like year 304 current era, but Diocletian or Diocletian wanted to return to the to the worship of the old Roman gods. Probably I can understand why, because he considered Christianity as a threat. So Cyprian become a martyr. They were both tormented, killed by these Diocletian reforms, and now they are recognized as saints. Probably due to the history of Cyprian or Cyprianus, in the 17th century appears these old first grimoires, and as many of these books from that time, the authors, the anonymous authors of those books, wanted to maybe predate their history or give it like a little bit more something mystical. So it's in these books, it's believed these first books, this Libro de San Cipriano and Libro de San Cipriano in Spanish translation, they are believed to be the books of the St Cyprian, which is not true. There are like three main areas where these books of Cyprian become very popular. The first one is Portuguese, and there were many. Yeah, they were quite popular between common folk at the time. Those that could read tried to read that, and they are also being like renounced by Catholic Church. But these various variations of these books are called like the first book of Cyprian is probably just a translation of the Keys of Solomon. And they are called like Great and True Book of Cyprian. Then there was another version, Authentic, the Sorcerer Treasure. Yes, and it's believed that this book contains like, and we know it's not only believed, we know that from those old books that are still existing until current time, it discussed like divination, prayers, prayers to the guardian angels, for example, but also love magic, exorcism. So everything what was popular, mostly by the common folk, to do the small or not small magic, but this basic magic like for spell making. Also, some of the versions contains like locations or believed locations of buried treasures, mostly in Galicia, and these books are quite popular. In Spain, practically books of St Cyprian are replacing the more known Grimoire Verum, for example, or Lesser Key of Solomon. They were more being published and reproduced in France, in German. German kingdoms and also in England. So in Iberian Peninsula we have more this Cyprianus tradition. Many scholars think that books of St Cyprian were practically localized versions of Key of Solomon or Petit Albert from France. They are called like Jonas Sulfurino, Sulfury Jonas. So even these names of these books were meant for like for popular popularizations of magic for the wide audience. And these books later on, of course, at that time starts like a heavy colonization of the Portuguese and Spanish are creating colonies. Portuguese also in Western Africa, where there is like appearing a lot in the 17th century. There is a huge slave trade going on to supply South American and Central American market for the Portuguese slave market for the Portuguese, mostly in the Southern America, in Brazil, for the Spanish in Central America. And these books are practically transported also to the Central and Southern America, and become really popular mostly in Brazil by practitioners of these Goetia teachings are mixing with the sorcery mythology of slaves and also of the domestic populations. I made a video about this, that there are like new traditions of magic, mostly from the 18th century, Quimbanda, Umbanda, Candomblé. So you can even maybe watch my video about Quimbanda, recent one, where this story continues. But the Portuguese versions of Grimoire of Cyprian were one of the main sources. And of course there exists even like a Catholic term, it's called like bruxaria. It's like sorcery. Catholicism is like deeply against these traditions, but of course this continues also from Europe. So the book is popular in Latin America. However, it is, I mentioned that there are three areas. One is like, okay, we can say that Spain, Portugal, maybe even like Southern America these books are popular. But there is another region in Europe where the name Cyprianus appears again, and there are even like another series of books called like Books of Cyprian, but they are absolutely unrelated to the Grimoires of Cyprian we know, like Grimoire of St Cyprian from Spain or Portugal. They are absolutely different. And these books are called Cyprianus, and they appear in Scandinavia, in countries like Norway, and also like Norway and Sweden. And maybe what is these books are called black books or Svarteboken, and are also appropriated to Cyprian, and are practically like folk magic, grimoires about spells, the magical traditions, rituals, how to work with, but also about demonology. We know from history, and still these books are they are quite rare now. So if you want to acquire the real copy, you will have to pay quite a hefty sum of money. But we know that in Scandinavia there were maybe 150 to 200 of these books that are still available until these times. We know that maybe until the 13th century there was in these northern Scandinavian countries, the oppression of Inquisition was not so dangerous. There were very little trials. Later on, of course, it starts also after the rise of Protestantism, but we know that these books of St Cyprian are relatively late. Say they are from the 17th century as well, and they are quite dark. Like why we can't like discuss only them in like one by one is because maybe 150 of these black books, each one is different. It is each one contains different rituals, different folk magic. And it's quite interesting study, like if they are similar, they overlap, but they were written definitely by different authors. It's interesting that the content in these books is, for example, related to the rituals like the prayers to Satan, renunciation of the Catholic faith, and also specific spells like folk remedies, prayers. Many of these books there is another influence, similarly like in Spain and Portugal, where the books of St Cyprian are influenced maybe by French Petit Albert. In these Norwegian or Swedish books, black books, there are a lot of mentioning like of German or Germanic folk magic. And it is quite funny to read it. Yeah, it contains also a small poems, some spells in the form of poems. There is one I can maybe read for you in English translation. So it's like this. Jesus rode over a stony plain. His horse stumbled, its leg it did sprain. Jesus dismounted to cure the pain and made her injury good again. In the name of God the Father, Son and Holy Ghost. So this is a heal spell. It is interesting to be said that sometimes these books of Cyprianus are also Cyprianus is the Swedish Cyprian. This Cyprianus is in the Swedish book not considered the saint. He is not considered. The Cyprianus is not considered as a Cyprian of Antioch, but as a magician, a mythical figure that writes these books there, and he can be practically related to Faust or Faustus, this typical Faustic figure, doctor that does this black magic and translate it to the common populace. Many practitioners of those times that had these black books, these Svarteboken, they believed that they come from Wittenberg. Wittenberg was a Protestant city in Germany where practically Martin Luther started the Protestantic movement. So it was also believed at the times that in Wittenberg there was like a sorcerer academy that taught these arts for those that are maybe that do obey Satan or the demons. When I was trying to read a little bit more about these books, there is one very nice copy of St Cyprian Grimoire. Again, it's written in Latin and it's expected to come from relatively late, from the 18th century. This book can be even bought on Amazon, like copy of it. It was found in the archive and annotated by Mr. Stephen Skinner and David Rankin. And it is called like Grimoire of St Cyprian, and in Latin it has the name Clavis Inferni, so practically the infernal keys. The time of this or the age of this book is not agreed. Some they think that it might come from the year 1757, maybe, but it was in the book it was maybe antedated to 1727. The book itself is not so big. It has around 30 pages, but with the annotation of Mr. Skinner and Mr. Rankin, you will find a lot of information. It has more pages because, of course, they try to explain and translate all of the information in the grimoire. For those of you that want to acquire it, please be prepared that this is practically like study book. It contains few bits of very interesting information from the view of the practitioner. It speaks a lot about so-called, and it provides also the illustrations of so-called 4 demon kings that are also accompanied by the name of the angel and god name that restrains these angels, these demons. So if you are going to do some kind of ritual, which are also written there, but they are very done in this, like it was done in the medieval times, in this forceful method, by the power of God and angel I call you demon. But if you are really into the theurgy and you would like to work in this way, the book is really like original material. It speaks about 4 demon kings. One is called, the namings are similar to the names of the demon kings from other books. Each demon king is responsible over some cardinal direction, and you during the evocation. So there are like 4. There is Maimon, Egin, Urieus, and Paimon. You might find some interesting similarities. For example, and I believe that this Clavis Inferni is taking a lot from older sources like Agrippa, Nettesheim, Occulta Philosophia, Pseudomonarchia Daemonum, Lemegeton, and of course maybe also others, because these names are reappearing in this Clavis Inferni. We know that for East it is like Urieus. For South is Maimon, for West is Paimon, and for North is Egin. And they are, for example, in Agrippa, the Occultas Philosophia, they are translated differently, but for the East is Oriens, for South is Amaimon, so not Maimon, in West is Paimon, and North is Egin. So but the book contains a lot of beautiful informations, sigils, for example, of Mephistopheles, which is quite, I would say, very interesting thing. Yeah, and then you have also so-called the books and these illustrations contain so-called Cyprian characters, so specific magical alphabet. Each letter is written in this magical alphabet. I believe that this is a very good technique when you want to create your sigils or write, for example, your wish on a some kind of paper or papyrus and then ritually burn it. It's better to write it in this form of the specific sigils, as it starts up your subconscious. So to work with specific alphabet in magical operations is recommended. But again, also here, Mr. Skinner and Rankin they say that these Cyprianic characters are taken from another older source, Tritemius Polygraphia. But the letters are quite nice to do. So if you want to do some kind of medieval ceremonial magic, this is quite nice things to do. There are names for archangels also with the Cyprianic letters, zodiac forms, and then also some specific symbols for whole words like eternal or heavens or holy, and then you have like specific, almost like alchemical symbol for it. So this can be also included in your, I would say, advanced sigil creations. What really intrigued me in this book are the original old paintings of these 4 spirits with their own sigils, and they are like the book is relatively like, yes, it's from the 18th century, but early 18th century, but still it contains a lot of original lore. These figures of demon kings like Urieus and Paimon, their beastly forms, how they are shown, it's nice and even mesmerizing to look at. So what do I think about this book? Like, it's not original, or it is original grimoire. Yeah, it's one of the newer grimoire from the 16th up to 18th century. It comes from the 18th century, but it is something that show us this mentality of the late medieval or early early occultists in the 18th century, how they thought, where these medieval theories were still being used. Now we probably do not have enough patience, or we are not using this, we are not influenced so much with this Christian-like theological forms of doing magic, this chanting of archangels. But again, why not? Yeah, I think that some of these wordings there are not like pushing demons, like by the name of the god. It is strange combination of angelic and demonic magic in this book. It requires study. Yeah, for people that are not very much into this historical origins of magic, it might be a little bit boring, but the book does a very good job because it translates everything from Latin. Please, this is the Latin in the book is not this high level academical Latin like maybe Cicero spoke. It's quite medieval Latin with a lot of failures. Letters are missing. The pages are definitely being the book is old, so some things might have been lost. So Mr. Skinner and Rankin are trying to annotate all of it. So if you are really into doing ceremonial magic according to these old practitioners, you are welcome to do that. I would rate this book, well, for the general and modern practitioner, it's 3 stars. You know, like it is 3 stars because there are so many contemporary magical grimoires that would suit you better. But for someone that is really into the magical academic studies and want to go with the deeper ceremonial forms, I would rate it 4 stars. And why not 5? Because I think there are even more complex workings like Grimoirum Verum or Lesser Key of Solomon. But my understanding is that the more you understand about these old medieval grimoires, you can combine the information and you can little bit not do everything according to Grimoirum Verum, for example, but create a little bit this combination of styles from this book. So for academical reader, it's 4 stars. And for general practitioner, it's 3 stars. Friends, I hope you liked the video, and I hope to speak to you soon, whether on my live channel streams or on another video about another grimoire. So have a great day, and speak to you soon.